Sabotage, this is Jeff.
This is David.
Hi, David.
Hi, Jeff.
Did you know that I wrote a novel? Yes, you did know
I
that.
did know because I read it. I read it while you were writing
it. Yes. You are on the editing team, in fact.
Yes.
So I wrote a novel which is called The Aspect of Separation, which is a Coranthos Mori novel. What does that mean, Jeff? Well, thank you for asking, Jeff.
Well, I was going to ask that,
okay,
Jeff.
All right.
If
No,
you
no.
would
All right, you look. Hold on. I'll give you a pause.
Okay.
All right, now say the line, and I'll drop it in earlier.
What does Coranthos Mori mean, Jeff?
Thanks for asking, Jeff. I'll let you know.
Jerk.
Coranthos Mori is the sort of extended, like, shared universe for all the stories I want to tell. So the other thing I did, the Logomancer, that video game that's available right now on Steam for $4.99, which you can buy right now on Steam for $4.99 on Steam.
I think it's on Steam for $4.99, but I'm not sure.
I've heard that too. I'll have to double check on that. Was also in the same universe. So further stories I want to do, other stories, other games, that kind of thing, will be in the same universe as well. So there's connections between the book, the game, and also consequently the ARG in the website for the Logomancer.com. Which is technically canon and contains characters and plot points that are shared between both stories. So
right, yes. And y'all should really look at the ARG on the tower because it is a lot of fun to solve.
So yes, that would be the Logomancer.com/the tower.
Right, right.
This is an announcement video about the book.
Yes.
The book thing.
So
it is The Aspect of Separation as the title.
Yeah. And I want to say, Jeff,
yes,
I'm super proud of you for finishing that.
Oh, thank you.
It is an enjoyable book. It is good. And I'm not just saying that because you're my best friend. Because if you're my best friend, I would be honest if I thought it sucked. And it doesn't. It's good.
And then loud page-turning sound as you go to page 2 of the script.
Yes, the script, because we script.
Yep. There we go.
Thanks, Rush Limbaugh.
Yep, there we go. I got some Limbaugh Foley work in the middle of this announcement. Yes, I appreciate that a lot. I wanted to... I wrote the book over a period of 3 months when I had... it was last November during a break from work, which is code for don't have work because that's how contracts work.
Yeah.
Sometimes, yes, the contracts expire and then there's not a new one.
Yep.
So I did it for National Novel Writing Month and then ended up finishing it over 3-month period and then spent the rest of the time editing it and then also working on the print version, which is available on Amazon and CreateSpace. So there's an actual 6x9 glossy cover paperback, trade paperback.
It looks nice.
That one's $15 because like those things are more expensive. I think that there's that one took a long time to lay out. Like I had to learn how to do book layouts.
Right.
It's fun. I get to learn how to do a new Adobe program, InDesign. And then there's also on Amazon is the ebook version, which the Kindle version, but it works on your other devices too, just because you just Kindle app, so it works on Android and iDevices as well, which is good because I tried to. It doesn't matter. It is much more complicated to get things onto those other services because of reasons.
Right. Yes.
You think it would be slightly easier for Google, but that is not true.
No.
And for Apple, you need to be in their ecosystem, which I am not. So, anyways, the point is that the Kindle version is available, and the Kindle version is also available on all those different devices too. If you would like to, the ebook version is only $4.99. So that's the same price as the Logomancer.
Hey, you can get the Logomancer and the Aspect of Separation for $9.98.
Yes, that is true.
Before taxes.
Before taxes, of course, naturally. So what is the story about 4 minutes and 40 seconds into the...
Well, I mean, you can...
I guess we could give an outline, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, the website, theaspectofseparation.com, does have a good lead-in for the novel.
That's true. The website does have a good... It has like the summary like copy description that I had to cook up. So people ask, I was like, oh, hey, I wrote a book, and they're like, hey, what's it about? And I'm like, oh boy. I was like, because I think about that, and I'm like, I should know an easy way to describe it, because that's the idea of the elevator pitch, right? You should have a short description of a thing that you've done. Mm-hmm. You have to have a slightly longer description of a thing you've done, and then the easiest part is someone is just like, no, I really want to know in detail what it's about, then you can just go on for however long you have.
Can I give it a shot?
Sure. I am very interested to hear your summary. Go.
Oh, well, I was just going to do a pitch. I wasn't going to do a summary.
Okay, do the pitch. We'll start with the pitch.
All right, the pitch is... It's a curve. No, that's a bad joke.
It's a curveball. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the pitch is...
That's real inside baseball, yeah.
The world's a dying. Humanity is more or less confined to cities around towers, and that's the general state of everything. And this is the story of friends who don't know each other as well as they thought they did, and a bunch of jiggery-pokery between gods and creation and all manner of things.
Okay, I mean, that is true. Those things happen.
I think that might be a little too general to be a
maybe
good pitch,
too general.
Though.
I mean, it is true that principally the action in the book does revolve around jiggery-pokery.
Yeah. I've used that word too much today. I'm sorry.
I feel like you're trying it out,
Yeah.
It's like,
it's like kerdoodlement. It's just a fun word.
It's a fun word. Try it out in some situations, see if it works.
Right.
Okay,
but it is. You go. You wrote it.
Okay. Yes. This is the problem that I came up with, is that I want to usually just describe the I guess the setting, but the setting really isn't the same as the plot. But I suppose that they're both linked when you're trying to summarize something.
Well, you really like world building, so it makes sense that you would want to do the setting.
So yes, I mean, a lot of it came from setting first, and so yes, there was a event, like a cataclysmic event they call transposition, where like most of the people in the world just disappeared, they just vanished, and there's like a bunch of monsters that people don't know where they came from that are just there. And now electrical technology doesn't work outside of these mysterious towers that there's 7 in the world, and they just kind of are there, and no one knows who built them or what their purpose is, other than what they can determine. It just seems like, well, it's basically bubbles, safe zones. So electrical technology, all of the wonders of the past, which is, it's sci-fi fantasy adventures, but roughly speaking, same technology level as, like the real world. So, there's like, there was cars and trains, and at one point, the internet, and, guns, and, buildings and so forth, But outside of the sort of safe zone of these towers, everything is basically Wild West technology, sort of steam powered. I wouldn't necessarily say steampunk, but I mean, I suppose that's what that means, steam technology. So trains become very, very important for trade and, just for people surviving. And then but that's the setting. That's like nothing to do with the plot.
Right. Well, no, that has to do with the plot.
I mean, yes, it does have to do with the plot, because I mean, obviously there's a large section of the countryside that's called the Great Void, where if you walk into it, you just blink out of existence. Seems like the same way that people just vanished when the transposition happened and no one comes back from it. But it's also not like a black hole. It's not like an abyss, because it seems like normal countryside, and it's just that if you cross a certain point, you just don't exist anymore, at least in the same way. So there's this mysterious thing. So the town that the tower state that the main plot centers around is called Void Gate because of that, since it's where it's located at the edge of the Great Void.
Right.
Plot wise, it is there's 4 major storylines with a bunch of characters that are disconnected.
They're likable.
Oh, thank you. Likable characters.
Except for the ones that your brother and I both agreed we really hated.
Which was intentional. You have to have some good villains too.
Yep.
They are disconnected at first, and then eventually weave together. And they start weaving together closer and closer as it, gets towards the end, when everything sort of comes together. Mm-hmm. And everything hopefully makes sense at that point. what the point of all these different story threads are.
Exactly.
There is one thread is a Watcher, the story of a man named a Watcher who is in an endless field of dust. So it's sort of this realm that's kind of like outside time and space, or maybe time and space don't work the same way. It's just like weird stuff happens. Mm-hmm. And he's looking for a woman named Envy, who was killed thousands of years ago by humans and hates humans because of it.
Spoilers.
Yes. Also, you might be thinking, yeah, well, if she's dead, then okay. What's going on?
Yeah.
Yes, hopefully that will be answered if you read the book.
Well, hopefully, yes.
Yes, hopefully so.
Yep, I am looking at the blurb on the aspectofseparation.com to make sure I remember everybody's name right.
Sure. That's one. So that's one plot line. You have like the Watcher and Envy in this weird dust place. Mm-hmm. You have the Nightmares, which is a night guild that works for a company called Mare that are.
I see what you did there.
Yes, that is. Yeah, that's why they're called the Nightmares, because they're knights for Mare.
Mm-hmm. Kim and John.
Kim and John, and they are protecting a sensitive shipment they're trying to bring back to headquarters. And it's on a train, and the trains run through the wilderness, which is where monsters are. So they're basically protectors and monster hunters because, they have to protect the people and also the cargo from like monster attacks. And, John is an expert in like knowledge of monsters, and Kim's a fighter.
And what's John's title?
John is a logomancer, journeyman
weird.
Logomancer. It's weird. It's weird. It's like that thing from that other thing.
Yeah, weird.
It's weird. Yeah. So their story involves them. It starts with them, on a train trying to protect mysterious cargo as it's attacked by monsters. Then the third storyline is about Ray and Patris, who are basically treasure hunters in the city of Voidgate proper. Patris, who is an insomniac, and his insomnia is becoming problematic for his health, and they need to go out on jobs in order to get money, and they're basically they go out into the wilderness to look for neat things from the world that was, since the people disappeared, but like the stuff that they had didn't. So there's like just abandoned cities everywhere, just in the middle of monster infested territory, that if you're brave or foolish enough to go out and venture into, there's plenty of people that are interested in these old world artifacts. So that's kind of how they make their living, and they work off of tips from just an enigmatic, yes, like an enigma,
yes,
sort of like hermit who's named Uncle Kale, but is not actually related to them. He just calls himself Uncle Kale. So
like crazy people do.
Yes, as you do, as you do. And then there's also a fourth storyline, but that one starts a little bit later in the book. So
I feel like it would be spoilers to start talking about it.
So those are the three main storylines, and then a fourth one picks up, and then eventually it'll come together. At the end.
And I don't say this lightly. I got a little verklempt at part of the book. Like you made me feel.
I made you feel. Okay. Mm-hmm. I made me feel too.
I know.
Which is weird when you're writing a thing. You're like, well, this is my responsibility. I don't know why I feel. Anyways, there was an existential crisis.
Right. These people don't exist, but man, I feel real bad.
Yeah.
So yes, it is a good book, and you should all rush out and buy it because it is legitimately good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, if you enjoyed that, you can wait.
Donate to our Patreon.
Donate.
You could.
Yeah. I mean, Jeff will write more books.
No. Okay. So the other thing that I will be doing, for the novel, is I'm producing a radio play sampler for the first 6 chapters, which will be released over the next 6 to 7 weeks. where I will be basically as a sort of a podcast, basically a podcast. It'll be released on the channel, but
right.
Going through.
It's like a book on tape,
like a
with
book
a little
on tape
bit
thing.
more production.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, some more like sound effects, music, that kind of thing. What did I say? It's like kind of like a radio drama, but then but there's not actually different people doing character voices.
It's all Jeffy.
Yeah, it'll have half and half there. So we'll be doing the first 6 chapters as radio drama sort of podcasts on the channel here as samplers. So if you are so inclined. Which is also actually, about the free sample link that you can get from the Kindle too. So you could like read the sample there. You could read along when we release videos, as just a way to. Plus, it gives me the opportunity to do the thing that I could not do with a book, which was what I like doing a lot, which is writing music. So
right,
I sat down and was like, character themes for everyone and everything and every location.
I would like to point out that this is the man when he was DMing our D&D game. He wrote a battle theme, he wrote a city theme, he wrote a character theme for all of us. He drew up art for all of the characters.
The theme for David's character is being reused for one of the ones in this book.
You know what? I bet I know who.
I think you know which one it is.
Yep.
So like I already had a few character themes. I was like I already wrote these for characters that are basically the same. So like, all right, I'll use that one for that character. I'll use that one for that character. Done.
I'm pretty sure that there wasn't a character quite like Holm in your book.
No, but there is one. Let's say similar enough of the main characters.
Fair enough.
Yes, I'm also going to be using the Samus's theme for Kim, because I'm like, this is basically the same. Or like, she's basically a gunslinger.
Right.
Yes, that reminds me. If you have read Stephen King's The Dark Tower, it seems kind of like I just wrote that in some places. I assure you that I was also surprised and maybe a little disappointed. Because I'd read The Gunslinger, so the first one, and then I wrote this book, and then I was like, I really think that I would enjoy the rest of The Dark Tower, so I've been like burning through the rest of it. I'm actually on the last book right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, yeah, a lot of this seems pretty familiar.
Oh man.
Oh well.
Well,
I was like, well, yeah, whatever. What are you gonna do? I like a lot of that kind of stuff. Reading The Dark Tower is very easy for me because I was like, I like all this stuff. There's a lot of this stuff.
It's a lot of the stuff you wrote, yeah.
Yeah, it's very familiar.
Yeah.
It is not exactly the same, but yes, if you are wondering, it is kind of like that. It's kind of like that.
That's kind of like.
Except with the sort of the changing perspectives of like, I guess like Lord of the Rings, really, where you have like the major character plot lines, and it switches from chapter to chapter's perspective.
Yeah, Lord of the Rings would be a good comparison. For me, it strikes me more as like a Robert Jordan or a Terry Brooks thing, except your book is, a million pages, so it's not Robert Jordan.
Well, I guess there's also like Game of Thrones.
I have not read
Song of Ice and Fire or whatever.
I have read. Well, that's not true. I have read a very small amount of Song of Ice and Fire. So
I've really just seen the show, but I'm pretty sure just from like looking at the book that that's kind of that same style. Well, I mean the show's in that style too.
Now this is George R. R. Martin, Robert Jordan, very different.
Sure.
Robert Jordan had a rough plan / outline that he defined and refined for all of the books. George R. R. Martin does what I think he called it garden writing, where he just starts writing. He doesn't have like a meticulously laid out plan for everything.
Mm-hmm.
So they both write not high fantasy, but they both write, fantasy, and they both have a very complex relative storyline and all that. Just very different approaches to get there.
Sure.
So
that is true. I'd say that I think I actually used a combo of that when I was writing this one.
Mm-hmm.
So the setting I had pretty much was the actual main, like a lot of the characters and the loosest outline of the plot was actually something I wrote in 5th grade. I wrote a story called Bolts of Steel in 5th grade. And a lot of the same characters and general plot outline this is like the version of that. So like a much more complicated version of that.
And it's also, the same universe that the games you've made.
That the games, yes, it's all the same universe that all these things take place in.
Right.
So like this, I have a very good idea of the world and the layout of the world, and also the history of it, and like where the different games and stories fit in.
You have a plot Bible.
Yes. Currently, it's just in my head. Well, and some of it's on like Steam for $4.99,
and some of it's on Amazon Kindle for $4.99.
For $4.99, some of it, yeah. Some of it's like on old hard drives somewhere, but probably.
So
I know where I wanted to go with the story in general, but then it was very complicated to get all of the pieces to like work together properly.
Right.
But then actually inside, so I would divide it up when I was doing like the Google Doc for the general outline. I would have the major plot threads, like the 3 or 4 that have the major plot threads, and then where I wanted them to go, and then after that where I wanted them to intersect, and then after that kind of cutting them down into what would basically be chapters, like end points, like dramatic or cliffhangery kind of end points,
end of season, end of episode stuff.
And this would be the end of this episode, where it's like what's going to happen next, and then it goes to see what's happening with someone else. And then I would just write one of each, and then just alternate, because I was on the schedule of writing 1 chapter a day, so 2,200 words a day.
Yeah.
So like sit down, write a whole chapter, beginning to end, some sort of cliffhanger kind of thing. And then,
right.
But then what actually happens in the chapter, like with the character interactions and stuff, was sort of decided then, because I like some of the character actions were not pre-planned in that sense. It was just where I generally wanted them to get to.
Right, you had the story beats planned out, but not
the story
the
beats,
minutes.
Yeah, not like how they were going to get there.
Right.
So,
which is, I think, similar-ish to how Jordan wrote, but I'm not sure. I have to reread that article.
So yes, I just try and write from both protagonists and antagonists as if they were competent and they wanted to accomplish what they wanted, rather than how can I get to the next plot point that I already planned.
So you were trying to avoid lost syndrome. Got it.
Yes, I want this. All I want out of media, a sarcastic banter, that's great. A satisfying plot, that's also great. Emotional catharsis, yes, I'm all about that.
Important.
I want competent characters.
Right.
I want them to be good at what they do and to show it.
Right.
So hopefully that came across as well.
No idiot balls.
Yes. If there are any Deus Ex Machinas, it needs to be foreshadowed in every previous chapter in subtle ways. Like it can't just come out of nowhere. It has to, Chekhov's gun kind of thing.
Right.
You actually have to put the gun in there in a previous chapter. You can't just spring it.
Yeah, Chekhov just can't have a gun randomly in the 3rd act.
It's actually where a lot of my the sort of more complicated planning came out towards the end of the book, because there are some things that I wanted to have happen that if they just happened without any explanation, it would just be like okay, I guess. There's just a magic plot button that solves this problem or creates this other one.
I think I know specifically what you're talking about.
I'm sure you can think of a few examples. There's actually probably more than just like the big obvious ones, but I was like, I need to set it up all the way back in like starting at chapter 1.
Right.
So.
It can't just be surprise.
Yeah, it can't just be surprise. So if any of that, hopefully if some of that is interesting to you, you'll be compelled to go buy the book. Yeah.
And this is a compliment. This is not like a book where you're going to sit down and 142 hours later you have finally finished it. It is exactly the length it needs to be without being full of extra bits, and it is not super short.
Okay, it is not super short.
That was a rambling way of saying that it is a good read.
That it is a good read. That's is like entertaining, okay.
reasonably paced. It doesn't feel like there's filler. It doesn't feel like there are parts that are left out.
Yeah,
that's what I'm trying to say. Poorly. All right.
Okay, well, yes, tune in next week, I guess, or, in the following weeks when I'll be doing the radio drama version of the first few chapters. But until then, you can go visit theaspectofseparation.com and learn more about the briefest outline of the book and some of the factions in it, and then also the links for Amazon, which will be in the comments or not the description.
The show more field.
Yes. All right. The end.
Da-da-da.
And now I will play some of the music that I made for it. Actually, I probably have been doing that this whole time. But here's the theme song anyways.